Terrence, I heard you had something juicy to talk about today.
I do. And to be honest with you, I kind of kept this a secret for at least about 13 years, but I was kind of thinking it's time to reveal it.
A 13-year-old secret. I'm scared.
13-year-old secret is it's time to put it out there, but hopefully it's going to help some folks.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Heart to Hearts. I am Jamise Grace.
And I'm Terrence Hardge. Thank you for joining us. There's something that I want to share today that I actually haven't told most of my family or many of my friends, especially those friends who have come into my life within the last decade. There is something that I had back in 2011, August of 2011. And so I'm just going to put it out there. I'm just going to let people know. I had a gastric bypass. At the time I had it, I was around like 280 pounds, but there was a time in my life where I toppled the 300-pound mark. And so I really was concerned about my weight. There are lots of things I did to lose it naturally, but I struggled. And interestingly enough, as I was thinking about this show, I came past a letter that I wrote. I was on this forum with other people who were having gastric bypasses. I was talking to someone who was nervous about it. I wrote to them, "This is the first forum that I've joined to address obesity. My surgery date is the same as yours, assuming you're scheduled for August the 5th, 2011. I am a man, but my experience is similar to yours. I have a couple of friends, skinny ones, of course, who have all but insisted that I don't need the surgery. I'm just under 300 pounds and have had temporary success with dieting, much like you. On Atkins, I lost 40 pounds, but once I reintroduced carbs, I gained over 40 pounds."
The first question that I have before we kind of go deep is why? Why do you want to share it now?
I was actually at the gym a couple days ago, and it was the first time I ever thought about sharing it on this show. I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I was thinking that I'm in some of the best health that I've ever been in my entire life. I was thinking about the days where I was pretty up there in the weight, dancing up to the 300-pound mark. And I was thinking, how dare me keep it to myself? First of all, let me explain why I've kind of kept it to myself. I know that there's often a stigma that's associated with it. People
Mhm.
have all kinds of thoughts as it relates to it. There's nothing wrong with choosing to be large, by the way. This is not a vanity issue. But with me, I was thinking about the people who have health issues, things that accompany being obese. They might shy away from something like a gastric bypass because of the attitudes that surround it.
What do you think the main stereotype is about the surgery?
One of the main stereotypes is that the person is lazy, that they don't want to do it naturally, that they have not tried. As far as a man, I think there may be an additional stigma because it's like, why don't you just man up or, just be okay with whatever weight that you're carrying around? I investigated it thoroughly before I made the choice, and I was still kind of scared going into it. And I can tell you more about my experience and what I remember about the surgery. I think a lot of the stigma is that, you just didn't try. You took it the easy way, because the truth is people can lose weight by making sure they're in a calorie deficit. You put on weight when you take on more calories than you're expelling. I found out a lot about myself throughout this experience. I feel as if it's one of the best health decisions I ever made for me.
What's the difference? Like, people will say, well, just lose it, do it naturally. You still have to do the work after you have the surgery. What's the difference between doing it naturally and still having to do the work after the surgery?
Excellent question. I see it as a tool because the truth is you can have a gastric bypass, you could have a gastric band, and you could end up putting on more weight than you did before the surgery.
Yeah,
And so
I've seen
I
it. I've seen it
Yeah, I've
happen.
seen it multiple times too. And so I really took that to heart. I heard a lot about it being a tool. To this day, I respect this tool and what I consider to be a blessing for me. When I feel full, I stop. Some people, they just choose to continue to eat even when they feel full. I take it seriously. My family laughs at me because if we go out to eat and if we go to a place that has bread or a roll, if I choose to eat that roll, ain't no more eating for me. I really do work hard to make good choices for my life. I look at what I eat. I exercise on a regular basis. Sometimes I make it to the gym 6 times a week. A part of me did not want my credit taken away from the work that I actually do because, once
Mhm.
again, it's not the surgery that makes you lose weight.
Right.
The surgery is a tool that you can use.
If you're saying that you can just lose it naturally and you don't lose it until you have the surgery, is it really true that you can lose it naturally? Like, what makes the difference other than the fact that it's a tool? The average person would say, well, if you can do it with the surgery, you can do it without the surgery if you're putting in the work yourself.
I found it very tough to do without the surgery. And one thing that I discovered about myself is I found out I was an emotional eater. I'll tell you sort of a funny story that happened after I had the surgery. We had to go through a period where we only ate certain things or could not even eat immediately after.
Mhm.
Oh, Jamise Grace, I was starving. I was wanting to eat.
I bet.
Oh my goodness, it was no joke. And let me tell you, my wife, she brought some wing stop for the house. And I was, telling her it's okay, I'm fine. Although I was staying away from the scent and I like that lemon pepper and that garlic pepper. Oh, no joke. And I don't encourage anybody to do this, but I had to chew a little bit. I had to taste something. I had to taste something. I chewed a little bit and I spit it out, but I don't encourage that. That was very dangerous. And we need to make sure we
Mhm.
obey what the doctor says. And if there's a regimen going into it and a regimen coming out, we really need to comply with what that is.
There are some people who look at the surgery as a quick fix or the easy way out. You know what I mean? Because they
Yeah.
think that they can't undo what the surgery did. I've had conversations with people where they say, if I could just lose the weight, if I could just lose the weight, I'll feel so much better about myself. But in those specific conversations, I know, because I know them personally, that there is a lot more to it than just losing weight. My question would be, if you feel this way with the weight on, what's to say you won't feel that way when you lose the weight? What's to say the reason you put the weight on is because of something a lot deeper? Why did you gain the weight? And
Right.
if you don't deal with why you gained the weight, is it really possible to lose it and keep it off?
That is a very good question. Have you ever watched My 600-Pound Life with Dr. Now? Lots of
Mm-hmm.
different psychologies going on.
Yeah.
And people just be lying. They
Uh-huh.
say, doctor, now you ain't got to watch me. Just let me go home. And then they slip back into old patterns of thinking. So, what you ask is very significant in terms of the psychology, because if you don't have the right psychology, the surgery can mean nothing, or you might not
Absolutely.
make it to the surgery like a lot of those people.
So let me ask you that. Like, how do you feel like you've kept the weight off?
I do believe that I took this tool extremely seriously. There was a lot of time that went into it. There was money, there was risk. In my mind, when they were prepping us for the surgery, I had to go sit down with a counselor, sit down with a nutritionist. There was a lot that was done getting ready for it. And when they talked to me about it, they were saying, this is a tool. If you don't use this tool correctly, it's not going to work. So, coming off of the heels of that, I was in the gym as soon as I had a release. What I do in terms of exercise is primarily classes. Sometimes people shy away from exercises in classes because they feel too big or too old. And I want to encourage people to try to find things that work for them. This is me, for example, in body pump. I usually attend it several times a week. We work all the major muscle groups in 1 hour. I also really enjoy body combat. I get in there and get to act like a boxer or martial arts expert. Don't laugh at me, but I also enjoy this hip hop dance class. It's really good for cardio, much like the body pump class. I really think it's important for people to find what works for them. I like some hip hop dance classes. Not so much for that Zumba, too much shit.
Zumba is awesome.
It's not my thing. It's not my thing. Give me some hip hop. I don't mind dancing around a bit. I'm motivated by people. I like to connect with people and I like the energy that's in classes. So I incorporated that as part of my life. And I also do intermittent fasting. So I still try to work to keep myself in that calorie deficit. I believe that any mentality that thinks that, hey, I have the surgery and that's going to make me lose weight and I don't have to do any work, I can eat whatever I want, not exercise. That's not the right mentality. And that's not protecting the tool or the gift or the pouch that you've been blessed with.
Do you feel like there are processes that you went through before having the surgery that if you wouldn't have went through that process, you wouldn't be successful?
There are often things that we can do to prepare for success for an experience. Like, for example, when we had the divorce recovery episodes, we talked about the importance of marital counseling. That helped. So, embracing the counseling beforehand, learning facts. I remember listening to a man who had had the surgery, very fit man. One of the things he did was bring in a pair of pants he had that he used to wear before he had the surgery and lost all the weight. He suggested that we always keep a pair of pants from when we lost the weight. And I still have that. One pair of jeans I've held on to after all these years that shows a waistline that was significantly larger than what mine is now. By getting appropriate counseling, by talking to the right people, getting the right encouragement, and preparing your mentality, it can cause success if someone decides to have the surgery. And one thing I really want to emphasize once again is that someone does not have to have the surgery to lose weight. There are different strategies people can employ. For me, I benefited from a jump start and it gave me a new lease on life.
Whatever route you go to lose weight, there has to be some pre-work to be able to keep that weight off, because anything can be a great motivator. Having the pans that is larger than what you are now, that's a really good motivator. But I think people need to understand what is a consistent motivator. And if you don't have a changed mind, what motivates you is always going to be temporary.
What do you think of some examples of pre-work? What could people do before?
The counseling, being educated, even learning healthy ways to eat. Some people think eating pizza for dinner is actual, that's dinner. Educating yourself. But the education, to me, in my opinion, is the easy part. Me personally, I think the weight that I have speaks to a lot of other stuff. It's not about food or not knowing how to eat or eating too much. It's about the comfort level I feel in the body that I'm in right now. I don't like it, but it's still comfortable. You know what I mean? So I would want to make sure I get that together. I understand and I'm dealing with the psychology of or the emotions behind why I eat the way I eat to cause me to be unhealthy.
So I don't know if this part is going to make the show, but I have to ask, are you uncomfortable with your weight?
Heck yeah.
Really?
Absolutely. I've never been comfortable with my weight.
Man. So you know what? That's one thing I want to point out because different in terms of beauty. First of all, I've always liked the thick woman. And different people like different things. So one thing I don't want to do in this show is, just emphasize that one look works for everybody. But it's about
My
comfort,
thing,
huh?
it's not exactly, it's not about the look at all, because I'm sure there are people who are my size who are 100% comfortable in the skin that they're in. But weight gain and being unhealthy as it relates to your weight has so much more to do with not eating right. I think that is probably the last thing it has to do with it, as far as not being able to lose the weight and keep the weight off. It's more to it than that. I'll just take myself for an example. The weight that I am now, I'm comfortable in my skin because of trauma, but I'm not comfortable with the way I look. But I don't believe that if I dealt with the way I look, that trauma, the reason that I gained the weight, is going to go away. You got to deal with the reason you gain the weight in order to keep the weight off.
I identify with that. Many of us have been guilty of consoling ourselves with food. Food was a source of comfort. As a chubby kid, my grandmother had a nickname for me. I don't know if I'm ready to say this to the whole world. My grandmama, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, my nickname from Granny was Fat Baby.
Oh, that
I
baby.
am telling too
Oh.
much on Heart to Heart. So I'm telling way
We
too
having a
many
heart to
secrets.
heart. You
We
got to
having hard
tell
to,
me.
but look, we shared too much. But my nickname was Fat Baby, and it was endearing term. And I remember many a day where I would wake up, and this would be in Memphis, Tennessee. I would smell fresh pancakes with some maple syrup, and I would feel consoled. I would feel love in my soul from those
Yeah.
pancakes. Food have a way of just kind of boosting our
I think
dopamine.
absolutely. Well, that's true just in general. But I also think in our culture, we've been comforted by food. Like
Yeah.
that's what every get together is food. Every you know what I mean? Like that's what we bond over. That's what we comfort ourselves over. I've known for myself that the weight that I put on or the weight that I have on me is a for sure way to keep some people away. It really is a way for me to keep my distance physically. The bigger I am, the further people can be away from me. That's why I'm asking about the psychology of it, because I know for me, it's deeper than, oh, I eat a lot and I need to stop eating sweets. Not so much now, but I know when I was younger, I would try to lose weight. And I can remember actually losing 20, 30 pounds and looking in the mirror and feeling good and feeling bad at the same time and putting the weight right back on immediately after
Why did it
that.
make you feel bad?
Because it was taking my security blanket away.
And the security blanket was the weight.
Is the weight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
I think you're so right about getting to the root cause of things because if you don't change your mindset, if you don't change your psychology, everything else is not going to fall into place. Ooh,
Yeah.
kind of deep.
I
Jamice
know, right?
Grace. We on here trying to tell all the people our secrets.
Yeah, not all of them. Not all of
Not all of
them.
them, just some of them. Well, my friends, go spread joy with a contagious smile, and a hug doesn't hurt. You never know what life you might be changing or whose heart you might be healing. With my co host, Grace, I'm Terrence. God bless you.